Welcome to Talking Greek Business. We're coming to you from the roof garden of the Titania Hotel in downtown Athens, the lovely Olive Garden, where it's bustling and hustling and a little bit noisy, but it's a lot of fun as well and very helpful. We have with us today a very respected man, a senior analyst whose expertise in geopolitics and energy security sets him apart. Ioannis Michaletos, welcome to the show.
Thank you for your invitation, and I hope and I'm sure that we're going to have a fruitful conversation regarding Greek regional and international affairs, economic or political ones.
I think we can refine many views through this exchange. Let me start with the difficult one. The energy game in this particular region has almost exploded. I mean, things have happened that we haven't really bargained on. We've got Cyprus drilling for oil and gas. We've got competition between Eastern and Russian pipelines. We have the instability in North Africa and the Middle East, and we have immense pain and suffering in Syria, where there are also tensions with Turkey, of course.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for Greece?
Well, let me do a short historical review upon that so I can explain what that means for Greece, Cyprus, and the region. Since 2001, the beginning of the 21st century, the prices of oil have increased 500% or more, and they have stayed as such, especially after the end of the 2008 financial crisis. So now we have oil at $100 per barrel, the one traded in New York, and the one traded in London is 115. That means that a lot of reserves that were known in the past, but they were not profitable to be extracted, they'll now be looked upon, such as the one in Cyprus and in Israel. And according to a lot of geologists, the ones in the south of Crete and the Aegean Sea. That means that the region may well become a hydrocarbon producer. If that increases opportunities, of course, but also political risk, because hydrocarbons are the basis of the world financial system. It's the basis of the commodities, and the commodities is the basis of the industry, and the industry is the basis of the whole economy. So that means that Greece has a lot of opportunities to relieve itself from its debt issue. On the other hand, it gets involved to culminations and machinations of the highest nature in world politics.
So we face new serious challenges.
Exactly.
It's a bit like what they say about Africa. Wherever they find oil or diamonds, blood usually follows. Let's hope it doesn't in this case.
Well, that happens because the African countries do not have the political culture or the foundations to secure themselves from the antagonism of major companies or powers. Greece is in a better stage than African countries, hopefully, but it has the debt issue that has exploded. The Greek state, the Greek budget has bankrupt since summer 2010. Now we're viewing the bankruptcy of the Greek citizens, the Greek businesses, the private sector. If this is not put to an end, then Greece will lose its natural resources and will not benefit from them.
Yanni, what should the Greek posture be in foreign and in energy relations?
Well, Greece has a major advantage that it's in the crossroads of the axis between the west and the east, and the north and the south. So that means that it has opportunities to mediate between different powers and extract as much benefits as possible from each one. I'll give you the example of a country like Bulgaria that does not have its own natural resources apart from coal and lignite, but it plays the game between the United States and Russia, trying to extract as much possible as
benefits.
Benefits, yeah.
As many advantages from either side.
Advantages.
So play one off to the other.
Yeah, so for example, it managed to get a big discount on its natural gas imports from Gazprom. At the same time, has awarded hydrocarbon researchers to French company, Total, and the Spanish one, Repsol. And it also has made agreements with the United States on different security and defense sectors. So for the time being, the Bulgarian economy has managed to be afloat, to have even a 1 or 2% increase.
So they seem to be striking a good balance
Yeah, for the
between
moment.
vying powers and extracting the most out of these deals, you think?
Yeah, for the moment, yeah. The same is Serbia is doing the same. Although it's not a member of the European Union or NATO, its economy is actually progressing. Whereas Greece is
Rapidly declining, but we hope we can find the bottom soon and we can bounce back strongly.
we have time until it hit the bottom.
That doesn't sound very promising. Let me ask you now about arch-rival Turkey.
Yeah.
Are they really the ones stopping us from declaring an exclusive economic zone and exploring for oil and gas? How is this turbulent relationship today, now that we have the borderline conflict between Turkey and Syria?
Well, there was a recent visit by the Turkish Foreign Minister, Davutoglu, where he actually stated in an official manner that he's against the declaration of an exclusive economic zone by Greece. It's a fact that Turkey
Is this a casus belli? Is this would this be a cause for war, like the land?
Well, Turkey does not have the capability of launching a war, especially in a NATO country like Greece. It doesn't have even the capabilities of launching a war against Syria.
Really?
Yeah, we can see that over the past few months, the Syrians have taken down a Turkish aircraft. They're shooting small-scale missiles into the Turkish territory. They are financing and arming the guerrillas, the Kurdish guerrillas of PKK, that are killing hundreds of Turkish soldiers. They're blowing up pipelines, and Turkey wants USA to intervene on their behalf, but they cannot take the responsibility of attacking Syria because the Turkish army is big, but apart from some elite forces and some trained commando forces, the rest of the army will not fight. Because a large number of them are actually Kurdish citizens, Arabs, and dozens of other minorities.
So you're saying the Turkish military doesn't have the stomach for a fight?
Well, the Turkish military hasn't fought a full-scale war, mobilizing its fleet, air force, and land forces since 1922, when actually there was no Turkish state. It was Kemal against the Greeks. Since then, Turkey has only invaded Cyprus, 1974, without any obstacles because the Greek army didn't fight and the Greek Cypriot army was in civil war. So actually it was a landing, as the Turks have called it, not a fight. And they have also fought the insurgent war in the Turkish Kurdistan, where they're actually losing the fight. Because as many times they have fought campaigns against the Kurds, the Kurds regroup themselves and then become even stronger. There was no other case that Turkish military has been involved, whereas the Greek army has mobilized itself numerous times since 1922, as well as the Syrian army, the Iraqi, the Iranian army, the Israeli army, the Egyptian army, the Russian army, the Serbian, and so on. So Turkey is the only country in the region.
Look, I hope you're right and we're not underestimating them. I would love to know that you are right. But let's go back to us a little bit. Okay, they don't want us to declare an exclusive economic zone.
No.
Should we do it anyway? Should we have done it before?
To declare something is not difficult at all. The thing is what you do on a second stage. Okay, let's say that Greece declares tomorrow an exclusive economic zone. The Turks, the first thing they're going to do is they will try to test the limits of the Greek resilience. So we'll send aircrafts or
naval ships,
frigates in the exact regions where you have declared the exclusive economic zone. So you need to have plan number B.
And just to remind some of our viewers, Castellorizo is a pivotal point in that exclusive economic zone because it means we can extend that zone almost as far as Israel, right?
As far as Cyprus, and Cyprus EEZ is connected to that of Israel.
Right.
Yeah, so in essence, you block the entire Eastern Mediterranean in favor of the Greek interest and of the Israeli, because the Israelis are looking forward to the European Union through the axis of Cyprus and Greece. Apart from Turkey, there are diplomatic obstacles by Egypt against the declaration by Greece.
But Egypt is on its knees at the moment politically, isn't it? I mean, it almost came close to a civil war.
Yeah, but the Muslim Brotherhood that is governing Egypt right now, for the moment, it has the full backup of the State Department under Hillary Clinton and the Obama presidency.
Right.
That might change, especially if Republicans win the American elections. But for the moment, Egypt is seen as a pivot country in the Arab world where the so-called moderate Muslims will lead the extremists to a reconciliation with the West. This is the mentality of the State Department, and they had invested a lot of money after the Arab Spring and a lot of efforts and fatalities as well, as we can see in Benghazi, in order to achieve this. So they're going to support, the Americans are going to support Egypt. On the other hand, since Greece is a NATO country, the exclusive economic zone of Greece is also a NATO exclusive economic zone, a European Union one. So I don't think the Americans are going to pose any problems because they're going to win in any case. The real problem is Turkey, and on a second degree is what you're going to do with this exclusive economic zone.
As you said, step B. What's step B? What should it be?
Well, Greece should also flex its muscles because Greece has a medium-sized army and armed forces which have a lot of highly trained officers and NCOs and a lot of high-tech weapons.
Are they good? Don't misunderstand me. Yeah. I mean, I served in the Greek army myself. But do they still have the capacity and financial ability to do this? Because at the moment, you know, the cupboard's almost bare in terms of money. If we don't get the next loan, we've got a problem.
The money is an issue. That's why before you even declare an exclusive economic zone, you should speak to your partners in the European Union and put on the table the peculiarities of the Eastern Mediterranean and the importance for the energy security of Germany, France, Austria and the other countries. If they want to benefit from secure access of Middle Eastern and Eastern Mediterranean oil and gas to the West, to their own countries, which are thirsty for energy, they should support this. If they don't, then Greece can easily shift alliances and either assist the American or the Russian or the Arab interests. This is a school of international relations based on realism.
Realpolitik, as they call it.
Realpolitik. This is how most of the American policy is being conducted, and the Russian and the Chinese. Now, the Europeans, apart from the Brits and the French, they don't really conduct foreign policy. They talk about money, they put Greece in the same place like Latvia or like other countries. But the geopolitical realities are different. Greece can easily find money from else if it changes the direction of its foreign policy. There were even speculations by American economists to leave from euro and link a new drachma, let's say, to the American dollar.
Indeed, Yoni, there have been quiet sort of background, back-chat discussions about a new drachma being introduced in the case of a Grexit, which would, of course, have to be either pegged to the euro or the dollar. But, of course, we're far from that at the moment, just at the moment. But let's have a look now, and we need your assistance to analyse. Reports received by our Prime Minister suggest that there could be potential oil and gas reserves of 600 billion over the next 25 years. Is this feasible?
Yeah, this was actually made known in a press conference by the the current alternate energy minister, who's responsible about researchers. This is about assumed reserves, not estimated or actual. So from assumed to actual, there's a very, very big difference. According to petroleum geologists, 90% of the assumed reserves are not valid. They're much less or non-existent. But that means that in some cases, there could be even more. We don't know. We have to make the researches first, then get to the estimated reserves after the three-dimensional seismic surveys, and then make some test drills to see what are the real reserves. That will take at least a decade under today's technology for drilling.
So we know there's something there. We don't know how much it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It could be a lot, it could be a little. But it's going to take us at least 10 years to get to it?
Yeah, because we need to do the researches, which will take a couple of years and a lot of money. Then a new licensing round for the international companies that will have to build the platforms, recruit the people. We're talking about specialized geologists.
So it's no immediate panacea.
No,
it's something that may be there that may benefit Greece medium term.
Yeah.
And it also increases the risks to us, as you said, because there's something valuable under the sea and under the ground. But tell us what you think our real assets in Greece are.
For the moment, we have already tangible assets that we do not account for because we think we take them from granted. For instance, Greece is one of the major lignite.
Lignite is a soft brown coal that they burn to generate electricity, right?
Electricity. The Greek power company, DE, uses about 40 to 50% of its annual electricity output based on lignite. Greece has retrievable, not actual has much more, but retrievable high quality lignite with low sulfur emissions, about 5 billion tons.
5 billion tons?
Yeah, mostly located in Macedonia, Thrace, Thessaly, and Peloponnese.
How much is that worth?
With today's prices, minimum 100 billion euros.
So we've got 100 billion euros there in lignite,
Yeah.
in coal.
In coal, yeah, in lignite. Coal is being reduced in the European Union due to the emission issues. And
Yes, it's dirty, isn't it? There's a lot of CO2 that comes from burning
yeah,
coal.
and because of the Kyoto Protocol, you have to reduce the emissions.
Yes.
But China, Vietnam, India, Thailand, Indonesia, South Africa, they burn a lot of coal and they import a lot of coal and lignite each year. Greece could easily make a deal with these countries. We have the shipping magnates that can transfer all these commodities in no time and make a few $billion each year for the next 20, 30, 40 years. But what happens is that the European Union comes to Greece and says, you have to privatize your reserves, and there's a wild speculation they're going to sell the entire reserves for a few €100 million, which is going to be the biggest rip-off
Of the century.
because the only companies in Europe that have the know-how, apart from the Greek ones, to extract and sell lignite are German companies. They're not French or Italian or Spanish, because Eastern Germany used to produce also big amounts of lignite. They have the personnel, they have the machinery, they have know-how, and they have the markets. So the Greek lignite is a major asset for them.
So the way PPC or the electricity monopoly is split up and privatized could well determine in whose hands these reserves fall and what windfall someone else may get and not the Greek state and the Greek taxpayer.
Yeah, and also not the European Union taxpayer, because if Greece was able to sell big amounts of lignite, it could also pay a part of its debt, the European Union, the ECB, the IMF. If RWE, the German company that's actually pursuing these reserves, gets them, nothing of substance will be paid to the debt.
So we won't be able to pay down the debt as quickly or even as feasibly as we would like to.
Yeah, for instance, if you have 100 billion euros of reserves, you can get a bond of at least 30 or 40 billions that will be used to pay a big amount of the debt.
Yes, of course.
And relieve the economy.
Yes, of course. I mean, the measures that we're talking about now are worth almost 13 billion.
Yep.
So if you've got 20 billion, you've just not only taken away some of the harshest pain, but you've also added on top of that some stimulus, perhaps.
Exactly, yeah. And also give a boost in the psychology of the investors. Another asset that Greece has is nickel. It has the 5th largest nickel production in the world, and the first in the European Union. So you have another asset worth around 15 billion euros.
15 billion euros in nickel?
In nickel, in central Greece, between the prefectures of Theotida, Phokida, Viotia. That lies there, waiting for a foreign investor. Again, you have a German company from the Thyssen conglomerate interested in buying Larco, and they estimate that they have to spend around 100 million euros.
Wow.
Which is not a big amount. It will not solve the Greek issue at all. The management of Larco over the past 15, 20 years, by successive governments, has been involved in some shady deals. For instance, they made futures about nickel production, which were 50% or 30% of what all major investment houses did. So for a number of years, Larco was losing hundreds of millions of dollars per year.
That's because they were signing contracts for the future price,
Yeah.
while the future, that price was much higher, so they were selling lower than the current market, let's say 6 or 12 months ahead.
Yeah, that happened for 1 year, they failed. Nobody stopped them. Second year, so somebody was actually making money out of this. That's why I'm calling it shady deals. And nobody was penalized by the management. They stay in their positions. They get
it's entirely possible that they were poorly advised, because a lot of companies do engage in future transactions and not for speculation, just so they can lock in the price, and so there isn't any risk to them of a collapse, and so they know what they're doing. It isn't bad treasury management policy. What about gold? What about silver?
Gold, especially gold, there are actual reserves that were also mentioned in international press that could produce 415,000 ounces per year over the next 5 years in Greece, the largest production in Europe, one of the top in the world.
What's that worth?
Yeah, that's a lot of money also.
You're talking a number close to 30 billion.
Yeah, with today's prices, yeah. It could be less if there's a fluctuation in the price of gold, or more if it increases. In any case,
why are they trying to convince us we're a poor country?
we also have the largest magnesite reserves in Europe, the largest bauxite from
Aluminium
in Europe, and one of the top in the world. And aluminium is a commodity that is going to be used more and more in the future because of China and India and the emerging economies and the construction levels they have. Greece also has big amounts of high-level marble, high-level quality marble.
Yes.
Perlite, bentonite, even salt.
Well, there's perlite, bentonite, and rare earths.
Rare earths.
In EMEA, was there a situation where
Uranium.
there was uranium under there?
There was a kind of radio, I cannot recall the exact name, it was similar to uranium. Greece has uranium reserves in the...
Was it iridium or something?
Iridium, I think, yeah.
Yes.
Iridium. About uranium, there is near the borders between Bulgaria and Greece.
So we've got rare earths as well.
Yeah, there is rare earth in Thrace, in Epirus. And apart from the mineral issue, which is an important one, Greece is one of the top tourist destinations in Greece, and according to SETA, the Greek Confederation of Tourism and Enterprises, it only uses 30 to 35% of its capacity. That means that it could triple its incoming tourism if it makes use of medical tourism, religious tourism,
Of course.
and many other facets of the modern tourism product. So instead of having 20 billion euros in revenues from tourism, you can triple that if you make smart moves and if the whole system in the States really supports the product. Which is...
Yanni, let me ask you this. Why do we find it so hard to attract energy investment into Greece? Okay, we know that there's some corruption, we know that there's some red tape, we know that there is an unstable tax code, but what else is there that keeps these investors out?
You're talking about energy investment.
Energy, yes.
Well, in Greece we have a cartel.
So we
fixing
have
prices.
oligopolistic practices here. There are a few companies on the ground, and they're controlling and protecting their turf, not letting anybody else come in to take a slice of it.
I'll give you a clear-cut example. In the island of Crete, which has a lot of consumption in oil because of tourism and a lot of automobiles, I think Crete is one of the top in Europe in private ownership of cars. It does not have an oil tank reserve to secure the island's needs. Everything comes from Athens, from Piraeus.
Right.
So there's a company called Mabid Oil, and for almost 15 years is trying to construct an oil depot near Chania. The business plan is that it's going to be very profitable. They have taken all the environmental, technical, construction licenses, but every time a mayor, the prefecture, the ministry does not sign a paper, so back from scratch. So I've heard Mavridakis' company saying that there are powerful private interests that do not allow us to enter the island. In order to keep the prices high, that's why Crete has the highest prices of diesel, gas
Well, if you
in
have
Europe.
to ship it all from Piraeus to Crete,
The highest prices in Europe.
the highest prices in Europe are in Crete.
Yeah. Right now that we're talking, it's about 190 to 2 euros per liter. It could get to 170 or to 160 if you had a depot there to place the commodity instead of transporting from Piraeus.
Well, that's certainly something that the new government should look at. Ioannis Michaletos, respected international geopolitical analyst and energy security expert, I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and I'd like you to answer one final question. If you were the Prime Minister of Greece for a day, what would you do?
Well, in this hypothetical question, the first thing I would do is gather a council from all the heads of the Greek society. When I mean heads, not just the political and opposition party leaders, but also the church, the army, the supreme judge, the workers' confederation leaders, the major mayors of the cities, and so on, and ask them to put forth some practical issues from solving the crisis. I'm talking about the debt crisis and the other crises that we have in Greece. But practical, 1, 2, 3, bullet points. The ones that can do it, okay. The ones that cannot do it will be left aside. Taking all this into consideration with my own thoughts and the thoughts of my advisors, I will proclaim a national strategy to be implemented as soon as possible, having the backup of the whole Greek society. Because right now the crisis that we have is national, so the politicians alone cannot solve it. You need to have the support of the other levels of power.
Yanni, thank you very much for being on the show and for the very interesting discussion.
Thank you.